My name is Scarlett. I'm 28, and for the past 5 years, I've been a covert intelligence operative for the CIA. Not the Hollywood nonsense with fancy gadgets and car chases. Real intelligence work is about psychological manipulation, deep cover identities, and becoming someone else so completely that even you start to forget who you really are. I speak 7 languages fluently, can neutralize someone with a paperclip, and have infiltrated terrorist cells in 12 countries. My specialty is honey trap operations, seducing targets to extract classified information. What I never expected was to use those same skills to catch my husband cheating with my CIA handler. Jake is 32, a cybersecurity consultant, which is what we tell civilians when we can't reveal he's actually a senior analyst for the National Security Agency. We met 3 years ago during a joint CIA-NSA operation in Prague. He was the brilliant codebreaker providing intelligence support, while I was undercover as a Russian arms dealer's mistress. Professional attraction turned into something real when he risked his career to extract me from a blown operation. "You're the only person who's ever seen the real me," he told me after our first kiss in a safe house in Berlin. Not the cover identity, not the legend, just Scarlett. My CIA handler, Victoria, is 34, a cold, calculating senior officer who's been running covert ops for over a decade. She recruited me straight out of Harvard, where I was studying international relations with a minor in psychology. Victoria taught me everything: how to read microexpressions, how to manipulate emotional attachments, how to become irresistible to any target. Emotion is weakness, she'd always say. The moment you feel something real, you've compromised the mission. For 2 years after Jake and I married, everything seemed perfect. We bought a house in Arlington, Virginia, close enough to DC for our consulting work. Jake would travel for his cybersecurity clients, while I'd disappear for weeks on international business development. We both understood the demands of intelligence work and never asked too many questions about each other's assignments. But here's the thing about being trained in counterintelligence. You develop an instinct for detecting lies, even when you don't want to. The first red flag came 6 months ago during what should have been a routine mission debrief. Victoria and I were in a secure facility in Langley, going over intelligence I'd gathered from a Pakistani ISI colonel I'd been running as an asset in Karachi. "Your performance was adequate," Victoria said, which was practically a glowing review from her. "But I noticed some hesitation during the seduction phase. Are you developing emotional attachments to your cover husband?" The question caught me off guard. In intelligence work, your handler needs to know if your personal relationships might compromise operational security. But something about the way she asked felt personal. "Jake doesn't interfere with my work," I replied carefully. "That's not what I asked, Scarlett. I asked if you're developing real feelings that might affect your judgment." Victoria had trained me to recognize interrogation techniques, but she was using them on me. Classic psychological pressure designed to make me reveal information I didn't want to share. "My marriage is compartmentalized from my operational duties," I said, falling back on agency terminology. Victoria smiled, a cold expression I'd seen her use on targets she was about to destroy. "Good, because I'm assigning you to a long-term operation that will require complete emotional detachment. 6 months, deep cover as the wife of an arms trafficking target in Montenegro. You'll need to be very convincing." That night, I came home to find Jake cooking dinner, acting completely normal, but when I hugged him, something felt different. His body language was tense, almost guilty. "How was your day?" he asked, not meeting my eyes. "The usual client meetings. How about you?" "Same boring cybersecurity stuff." But Jake had a tell when he was lying, a micro-expression where his left eye would twitch almost imperceptibly. It was something I'd noticed during our Prague operation when he'd lied to our Russian contacts. I'd found it endearing then, a sign that he wasn't as good at deception as he thought. Now it made my blood run cold.
The second warning came 2 weeks later during what I thought was a spontaneous date night. Jake suggested we try a new restaurant in Georgetown, an upscale French place that was definitely not his usual style. He was nervous, checking his phone constantly and scanning the room like he was conducting surveillance. "Are you expecting someone?" I asked. "No, of course not. Just thought we should try somewhere nice." But I'd been trained to spot counter-surveillance behavior, and Jake was exhibiting classic signs of someone running a clandestine meeting. The restaurant choice, the constant phone checks, the positioning where he could watch the entrance. It was textbook tradecraft. Halfway through dinner, a woman approached our table. Tall, blonde, stunning in that artificial way that screamed expensive plastic surgery. She was wearing a dress that cost more than most people's rent, and jewelry that definitely wasn't purchased on a government salary. "Jake, what a surprise!" My husband's face went white. "Melissa, I didn't expect to see you here." "I was just having drinks with some clients. Aren't you going to introduce me to your wife?" The way she said wife dripped with condescension, like I was an amusing obstacle rather than a person. But what really caught my attention was Jake's body language, the guilty posture, the inability to make eye contact, the way he kept fidgeting with his wedding ring. "Scarlett, this is Melissa. We work together sometimes." Melissa's smile was predatory. "Jake's told me so much about you. It's fascinating to finally meet the woman who captured his heart." Every word was calculated, designed to plant seeds of doubt and jealousy. It was a technique I'd used myself countless times during honey trap operations. This woman was playing psychological games, and she was good at it. After Melissa left, Jake was quiet for the rest of dinner. When I tried to ask about her, he deflected. "Just someone from work. You know how it is with government consulting, lots of networking." But intelligence work teaches you to pay attention to details, and I'd noticed several things about Melissa that didn't add up. Her watch was a limited edition Patek Philippe, worth at least $80,000. Her handbag was Hermes Birkin, probably $40,000. Her shoes were custom Louboutin, another $2,000. Nobody in government work, not even senior management, could afford that lifestyle on their official salary. Either Melissa had family money, or she was being compensated through channels that didn't appear on federal tax records. The third red flag was the most disturbing. Jake started asking questions about my operations. "How was Montenegro?" he asked after I returned from what he thought was a business trip. "Fine. Boring meetings with potential clients." "What kind of clients exactly? You've been traveling so much lately." Jake had never shown interest in the details of my cover work before. We had an understanding. Don't ask questions that might compromise operational security. But suddenly he was probing, using techniques I recognized from CIA interrogation training. "Why the sudden curiosity?" I asked. "I just worry about you. Some of these international business deals can be dangerous." He was fishing for information, and he was using emotional manipulation to get it. Classic intelligence tactics that Jake definitely shouldn't have known unless someone had trained him. That's when I made a decision that went against every protocol I'd ever been taught. I was going to investigate my own husband and handler using CIA resources. The first thing I did was run a financial analysis on both Jake and Victoria. Using agency databases, I'd tracked their spending patterns, travel records, and communication metadata for the past year. What I found made my blood turn to ice. Jake had been making cash deposits into a hidden account, small amounts, never enough to trigger federal reporting requirements, but totaling over $200,000 in 6 months. The deposits always happened within 24 hours of my mission debriefs with Victoria. Victoria's financial records showed similar anomalies. Expensive purchases, luxury travel, and lifestyle expenditures that far exceeded her CIA salary. But more disturbing were her communication patterns. Using agency signals intelligence capabilities, I discovered that Victoria had been in regular contact with foreign intelligence services, specifically the Russian SVR and Chinese MSS. Not official CIA business, but encrypted communications that bypassed all agency monitoring systems. My handler wasn't just cheating on her marriage, she was selling classified information to enemy intelligence agencies, and somehow Jake was involved. But I needed proof that would hold up in a counterintelligence investigation, so I did something that could have gotten me eliminated if I was wrong. I set up a sting operation against my own handler and husband. I told Victoria I had developed intelligence on a high-value target, a Serbian arms dealer who was planning to sell weapons-grade plutonium to terrorist organizations. I created an entirely fictional operation, complete with forged documents and staged surveillance photos. This could be career-making intelligence, I told Victoria during our debrief, but the target is extremely paranoid. I'll need complete operational autonomy and zero agency oversight. Victoria's eyes lit up with interest. How much plutonium are we talking about? Enough to build 3 dirty bombs. The sale is happening next week in Dubai. But here's the thing, the buyer is connected to Iranian intelligence. If we can intercept this transaction, we'll have leverage over Tehran for years. I was feeding Victoria false intelligence designed to be irresistible to foreign buyers. Weapons-grade plutonium, terrorist connections, Iranian involvement. It was exactly the kind of information that enemy intelligence agencies would pay millions to acquire. I need you to handle this personally, I continued. No written reports, no database entries. The target has sources inside the agency. Victoria nodded eagerly. I'll coordinate everything through secure channels. When do you leave for Dubai? Tomorrow night, but I need to maintain complete communications blackout until the operation concludes. That evening, I installed hidden surveillance equipment throughout our house, military-grade cameras and audio devices that were undetectable to civilian sweeps. Then I told Jake I was leaving for a week-long business trip to London. What I actually did was rent an apartment across the street and settle in for round-the-clock surveillance of my own home. The footage I captured was more devastating than I had imagined. Within 4 hours of my departure, Victoria arrived at our house. Not just arrived, she had her own key and clearly knew her way around. She was wearing lingerie under her coat and carrying an overnight bag. But what happened next revealed the true scope of their betrayal. I watched through hidden cameras as Victoria and Jake sat at our kitchen table, the same table where Jake and I shared 3 years of breakfasts and dinners, while Victoria made encrypted phone calls to foreign contacts. The asset confirmed weapons-grade plutonium, Iranian buyers, Dubai location, 3 devices, confirmed. Jake was taking notes, formatting electronic files on his laptop. My husband, the NSA analyst, was formatting my false intelligence for sale to enemy governments. How much? Jake asked. $5 million for the complete package, $2 million up front, $3 million on delivery. They were selling fabricated intelligence about nuclear terrorism for $5 million, but the worst part was still coming. What about Scarlett? Jake asked. Victoria laughed, actually laughed. She's becoming a liability. Too many questions, too much emotional attachment. After this operation, I'm recommending her for elimination. Elimination? Not the career kind, Jake. The permanent kind. Scarlett knows too much about our operations. We can't risk her becoming suspicious and launching an internal investigation. I had to run to the bathroom to be sick. My CIA handler and NSA husband weren't just stealing classified information. They were planning to have me killed to protect their espionage operation. But I was a trained intelligence operative, and I knew how to turn this situation into the trap they deserved. Over the next 3 days, I coordinated with the FBI's Counterintelligence Division and the CIA's Office of Inspector General. Using the evidence I'd gathered, we prepared a joint operation to arrest both Victoria and Jake for treason, espionage, and conspiracy to commit murder. But I wanted them to experience the same betrayal they'd planned for me. On Thursday evening, I called Victoria from my Dubai location. The operation is compromised, I said. using genuine panic in my voice. "The target made me. I think there's a leak in the agency." Victoria's voice was immediately concerned. "Are you safe?" "For now, but I need extraction immediately. Can you coordinate emergency protocols?" "Of course. I'll handle everything personally." Then I called Jake from a spoofed number that would appear as Dubai International. "Scarlett?" he answered. "Jake, thank God. Something went wrong with my business deal. The clients turned hostile. I think they suspect I'm not who I claim to be." "Are you okay?" "I'm scared, Jake. I need you to coordinate with my business partners back home. I think someone in the company leaked information about my deal." "I'll handle everything," Jake said. "Just stay safe and get home as soon as you can." What neither of them knew was that I was actually in a secure FBI facility in Quantico, coordinating the final phase of the counterintelligence operation. Friday night, I told them both I was flying back and would arrive Saturday morning. Instead, FBI and CIA teams positioned themselves around our house for the arrest operation. At exactly 6 a.m., I walked through our front door while federal agents surrounded the building. "Good morning, darling," I said to Jake, who was having coffee with Victoria at our kitchen table. "I hope you had a productive week planning my elimination." The color drained from both their faces. "Scarlett," Victoria started, "what are you—" "Agent Chen, FBI Counterintelligence," I interrupted, as a dozen armed agents entered our house. "Victoria Morrison and Jake Chen, you're under arrest for treason, espionage, and conspiracy to commit murder." The evidence was overwhelming. Recorded conversations, financial records, encrypted communications with foreign intelligence services, and their detailed planning to sell fabricated nuclear intelligence. Jake tried to claim he was being blackmailed. Victoria attempted to argue that she was running a sanctioned operation. Both stories fell apart under interrogation. The trial was classified, but both received life sentences in federal supermax prison. The damage assessment revealed they had sold classified information worth over $50 million to enemy governments over 2 years. Plot twist. 6 months later, I received a letter from Jake in prison. He claimed that Victoria had recruited him by threatening to have me killed if he didn't cooperate. His affair with her was actually him trying to protect me while gathering evidence of her treason. I had the FBI polygraph him. He was telling the truth. Sometimes the people we think are betraying us are actually trying to save us, and sometimes the real enemy is the person we trust most. Victoria is serving life without parole. Jake received a reduced sentence for cooperation and is eligible for release in 15 years. As for me, I left the CIA and now work as a private security consultant. Turns out, catching spies pays better than being one. The real betrayal wasn't the affair. It was the assumption that love couldn't coexist with deception. In the intelligence world, sometimes the deepest cover is protecting the person you care about most, even if it means they hate you for it.